Hi everyone, welcome to another EB-1A live stream. Feel free to start asking your questions, but I can always just go over a couple of things that I have come across so far in EB-1A. So one thing that a lot of people still don't really seem to understand is that EB-1A is a lot more than just about showing expertise, that there's a lot more to showing how you've risen to the top of your field. There's a lot more to EB-1A than just expertise. If you want to present a strong profile, you'll want to show not just expertise, but also that you've gotten recognized for your high level of expertise, and that possibly that you've made an impact in your field. That's just far more of a complete package than just showing that you have a high level of expertise. And you also want to show that your expertise isn't just recognized by people at your company. You'll want to show that you have external recognition as well. And the reason why I say all this is because if you look at top professionals in most fields, they will have a high level of expertise, but not just that. They will have recognition for that expertise, and it will be able to prove that through perhaps coverage by publications in their field, or perhaps through references. But usually, it's widespread publication of their work, widespread coverage of their work. That tends to be the strongest kind of evidence. And you can really just look to these people in your field as just examples of what you should be presenting as evidence. If you are really a top professional in your field, then you can just show that you have expertise, acclaim, so recognition for your expertise, and also impact in your field. And then just look to what all these other top professionals in your field, doesn't have to be people applying for EB-1A. You can just look at other top professionals in your field and just present a profile that is quite like theirs. And you can literally approach these people and talk to them about what they're involved with, and then go get involved in these very same opportunities. So yeah, it's just something I wanted to bring up. There's a lot of talk about extraordinary ability, but that's not the full picture for EB-1A. So IT Geek 1815 is a question. Does IEEE senior membership in okay, I guess you're asking, does IEEE senior membership count towards the membership criterion? No, it does not. And the reason is because it is the kind of membership that can be used as evidence for the membership criterion. So what you want is to be able to show that a requirement of membership is outstanding achievements. There's no specific definition of what that means, but for this kind of membership, given that a lot of people tend to get this kind of membership, the bylaws show that people who do not seem to have outstanding achievements, they seem to get membership as well. It's generally reserved for membership to count towards membership criterion. You need to be able to show a convincing argument for how it's only people with outstanding achievements who get the membership. If there are examples of people who do not seem to fit this criterion, then you're just going to get pushback on that front. And senior membership is one of those things where there has been a lot of questioning around this membership and whether it actually requires outstanding achievements. That is why it doesn't seem to really count anymore. That being said, you can use senior membership as a way to find the kinds of membership opportunities that could potentially help you with the membership criterion, like becoming an IEEE board member of a society, or becoming a local chapter chair, or becoming a committee chair for an IEEE conference or becoming just a committee chair in general within an IEEE chapter or getting onto the editorial committee of an IEEE publication. A lot of these opportunities just come from being a senior member. So while it's a membership that doesn't really count towards the membership criterion, it can still potentially help you find ways to get the membership opportunities that can count towards the membership criterion. So I spent quite a bit of time on this question, but it's a question I get all the time. I think just on membership criterion, does the Mensa membership consider the high achievement to membership criteria? Is it strong enough to be used as unique achievement? Thank you. I think in general, and I'm probably going to ask more immigration lawyers this question, if you want to show that a membership counts towards the membership criterion, you will want to show that it's professionals in your field who are the ones getting this membership and professionals in your field who have outstanding achievements. If you aren't able to show that, and it's just a general membership where people seem to be outstanding, that's not really enough because the evidentiary standard is outstanding achievements, I assume, in your field. So if it's a very general membership, then one could argue that people who do not have outstanding achievements in your field are getting the membership because they're getting the membership and they're not in your field and they seem to have gotten the membership. So that's why you want to be selecting memberships that are more specific to your field. For example, I mean, this isn't really a membership, but like an advisory board opportunity. That is something that you could use for the membership criteria because you can demonstrate that there was a selection process, you were reviewed by a bunch of people who are very top in your field, and then they selected you out of a bunch of other people. Doesn't have to be some sort of situation where the acceptance rate is really low. It could be just that you fit their particular profile. And that out of all these very outstanding people, you were one of the people who were selected. Now they got to select like 9 out of 10 of the people applied, but as long as you can show that all 10 of the people were quite outstanding in your field and have outstanding achievements, then you are in a much better position for the membership criteria. General memberships generally just don't really help with the membership criterion. Anyone else have questions? Monica asks, does a professional certification, which is currently being held by a few thousands people in the US, count towards extraordinary ability? That is quite a general question. So it depends on who holds the professional certification. What was the process for getting that professional certification? And yeah, so, and perhaps the professional organization issuing the certification. It's not as simple as because the certification is held by a few thousand people, therefore it's extraordinary ability. It is not, because you could have a certification that is just held by a bunch of people in a niche field, not really an indication of expertise or a high level of expertise. So in that case, probably not. But say it is a certification that represents the highest level of professional expertise in your field and you hold it and you're one of the very few thousand people who have it versus the general pool of people in your industry, which could be hundreds of thousands or even millions. And because you attain this level of expertise, you were able to get one of these certifications. That would be a much stronger argument for EA. But if you're just saying that it's a certification that you have and maybe it's just not a very well-known certification, that's why people don't really have it, then not as strong. Does speaking at live events and hackathons help for software developers for EB-1? Again, with any sort of activity, you want to think about a couple of things. First thing is, who is involved in the activity? Are there top professionals there? If there are not, then how can you say that you are getting recognized by other top professionals? Now, that being said, you could still be at an event where you're applying your expertise and you were invited because of your high level of expertise. In that case, you may not need to be amongst very top professionals. Now, for live events, that's where you can establish some sort of spectrum of whether that particular event helps with your profile. On one end, say the audience is not exactly top professionals and anyone could have just spoken. Not that great, because if anyone could have spoken, how can you argue that you were recognized? First, you can still build an argument around that. If it's not as strong as, say, speaking at one of the top conferences in your field where only top professionals get invited, and we know that because the organizers literally said so on the webpage of the conference or in the selection criteria, and you were selected to speak in front of an audience of top professionals, that is much stronger. For evidence in general, you want to be able to, again, show the three core elements that I just talked about. Number one, expertise. Number two, acclaim, recognition for your expertise. Number three, impact in your field. Anything could fulfill one or more of these three core elements, but you need to be able to collect evidence to show that a particular event, a particular hackathon, a particular demo day, any sort of activity, you need to be able to show one of these three elements or more for it to potentially be useful for your EB-1A profile. Now, there's a whole argument of you can just do things to meet the plain language of the criteria, as in just check off criterion, but if you want things to count towards final merits, those are the three core elements you have to have in mind. Having an LLC in USA could help the EB-1A visa, or could it impact it negatively? I actually don't know the answer to that question, but just generally speaking, EB-1A is about showing how you've risen to the top of your field. If having an LLC in your particular situation helps you show that you've risen to the top of your field, then I guess it would help. But if it doesn't, it's probably going to be irrelevant. What types of membership will work? Do we need domain-specific membership, like I am in healthcare domain, so do I need healthcare-specific membership? Well, remember that any evidence you present should help you show that you have risen to the top of your field. So if you want to present a membership, then for that membership to really count towards your profile, you will want it to show that you have a very high level of expertise in your field, or you have gotten recognized for your high level of expertise, or you've made such a tremendous impact in your field that you are now getting this membership, perhaps even getting awarded this membership or getting invited to this membership. So yes, it should be healthcare specific because you are showing that you've risen to the top of your field, which my understanding is probably going to be healthcare, because you said your domain is in healthcare. Anyone have questions? Yeah, people seem to really like the membership criterion for some reason. It is one of the most difficult criteria to meet, but there are ways to present membership evidence that even if it does not help you meet the criterion, you can still use to show that you have risen to the top of your field. And that could be advisory board positions, that could be maybe like startup advisor positions, could be committee positions, organizing committee positions, or editorial positions. These are the kinds of memberships that will potentially help with the membership criterion. Still difficult in general, though. Anyone have questions? Something else I've noticed is that, well, having spoken to a couple of lawyers in the past few weeks, there has been more of a focus on evidence that, in general, helps show that you have a natural case narrative and isn't really something that you just kind of like manufactured in a couple of months. I mean, the giveaways for this kind of thing are usually you profile vault in like 2 months and you only have 2 months of external recognition. That's usually quite feasible based on the lawyers I've spoken to. But some of you say have this other problem of having a bunch of random evidence. Like you have a bunch of random awards, you have a bunch of random authorship. It just none of it makes sense in the context of your expertise. It just looks like you did a bunch of random activities to meet the criteria. That also seems to be getting questioned a lot. What isn't really getting questioned, at least based on what I've been seeing, are profiles where the narrative looks natural. So that could be, for example, an expert in a particular field who's gotten years of external recognition for the expertise. They've spoken at conferences for many years. They've maybe judged hackathons for at least 1 to 2 years, or they have this record of authorship, and their authorship isn't in like random venues. It's in venues that are relevant to their industry. That is what an actual case narrative looks like, or it looks more like, than the two unnatural case narrative examples that I just talked about. School developer expert work sounds like it. You would have to explain how it would work. That is with anything. You would have to be able to argue that outstanding achievements is what you would need to get this certification, this designation. Anyone else have questions? Are first author publications important, or does having publications and citations suffice? It depends on whether you're presenting an industry profile or a research focused profile. If you are presenting an industry profile, then probably not. But if it's a researcher profile, that could matter. It would also just depend on, it just depends on what kind of profile you're presenting. And also whether you have a lot of first author articles, and if you can then use that as some way to argue that you are more of a top expert. What's a reasonable timeline to get a decent application in? Depends on whether you already have a foundation. If you already have a foundation, that is usually a strong leader and critical role claim or original contributions claim, or both, then probably 6 months to 2 years of profile building, assuming you don't have judging or authorship or any of the other criteria. But if you don't have a strong foundation, then it's going to take a lot longer. Would you be able to connect with judging and peer review opportunities in the healthcare domain? I've looked into it, but revolving opportunities in general are extremely difficult to land. I've come across some, but I can suggest examples. But whether I have, yeah, I focus more on AI and tech, but I can still suggest healthcare opportunities based on my understanding of what a good opportunity looks like, which is based on the conversations of the continual contact I have with immigration lawyers. All right. Anyone else have questions? Do you have any tips to get judging opportunities? Yes, get involved in professional organizations in your field. Talk to a bunch of people at events at these organizations and understand where you could help with judging the work of others. Usually it's hackathons, demo days, pitch competitions. For other fields, it could be reviewing articles for industry publications. It could be reviewing, yeah, this tends to be a very standard thing, reviewing articles for industry publications. That's something that seems to apply to a lot of fields. You also have reviewing speaker proposals for conferences. That is another form of judging. Those are the two standard forms of judging that I think would apply to quite a few fields. And to find these opportunities, you would just have to talk to quite a few people, especially organizers of these conferences and events, and editors of these publications. Does having just one judging opportunity or one peer review opportunity count towards the criteria? Do we need multiple of these to show strong evidence? Probably multiple. That's what I've been hearing from immigration lawyers. They're suggesting around 5 examples at least for each criterion. But I guess it depends on the lawyer you speak to. Questions? I have a couple more minutes. All right, no one else's questions. Thanks everyone for joining today's live stream.